In a 3-hour-long budget presentation titled Unlocking Tobago's Development Potential, Chief Secretary Folly Augustine made his final presentation as Finance Secretary on Monday. Last year, Mr. Augustine asked central government for 6.9% of national budget, but this year he's lowered the bar to 5.8%. While both Minority Leader Kelvin Morris and Assemblyman Watson Duke have spoken out against the presentation, the Tobago division of the TT Chamber has actually commended the Finance Secretary rating the presentation an 8 out of 10. This morning, joining us from Tobago is Tobago Chamber Chairman Curtis Williams. Tobago Chamber, we're going to be speaking about this morning, the 2025 budget estimate. Good morning, Mr. Williams, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Natasha. Good morning to your viewers and listeners on TTT. It's a pleasure being here this morning.
It's a pleasure to have you with us on the show this morning. Thank you for joining us. I know it's a very busy weekend ahead, so we appreciate you taking some time out. Let's get straight into the conversation, Mr. Williams. What is your rating of this budget?
Well, when we look at the fiscal package, we have been meeting with the THA on a quarterly basis, and there are a couple of things, couple of topic items that we spoke about and we asked about. And these items have been noticed have been included in the budget package. And we are very happy that at least the THA is listening to the business community, and we have a good working relationship. So we personally definitely give them an 8 out of 10 rating, in the sense that the commitments to these items that we spoke about in our quarterly meeting, we definitely bring to fruition now. And some of the items we want to focus on that was really mentioned and really great was the focus on the economy and the support for SME and business development. And we see that has been a very, very important part for the business community here in Tobago. And in giving us that support to kind of stabilize the economy going forward, we needed that support. And there were some other commitments that we noticed, commitments in terms of investment, in terms of infrastructure investment, and the housing development, commitment in terms of government reform. And we were looking at the efficiency of the THE and how best they can utilize the limited resources they have to increase the efficiency. And those were some of the main headlines, and we really appreciate that going forward, it really did well for us.
And what about the reduction? Of course, you would have reduced the usual 6.9 to 5.8%. What are your views on that, Mr. Williams?
Well, the reduction, we noticed that, and we tell ourselves that he probably just don't want to overemphasize and plan accordingly. And so he went a bit conservative on that. It's a bit of prudent strategy that been used, not overcommitting himself to some of the things that normally go on by, and then you have to do a whole review of this proposal that he put forward before. So that reduction seems a little more realistic going forward, but we still ask upon the Ministry of Finance, the Finance Minister, to this time have a heart for Tobago and see how best you could meet his commitment and even surpass it, his expectation and our expectation on the island. We're looking forward to that. As we all notice that resources plays an important part in this whole package. And if the resources is given and the prudent use of it, then I think we should have something as a very, very good outcome coming out from here.
Now, we also received some feedback, of course, coming from the Minority Leader and also from Watson Duke, who in fact said that the estimate, let me quote, does not match the plan for the island's development. What is your take on these statements?
Well, I think the opposition. His role is definitely to evaluate the document in front of him and come up with a critical review of such. And I think today he's going to express himself in the House, and then he must come up with alternatives. So it's not a mere fact of criticizing, a mere fact of saying this and saying that, but come up with alternatives, and let's look at what his alternatives could be, and so forth. So I'm looking forward to that speech this morning in the House, and see how best he could come up with alternative against what has been stated here. It's not an easy process, and his alternative definitely have to be in line with what's happening on the island and some of the commitments that we as the business community looking forward to.
Mr. Williams, what would you say are your key highlights from the 3-hour-long budget presentation that took place on Monday?
Well, I want to look at some of the things that we really think was a really important for us. I look at the fund, the capital development fund that he proposed to put in place for business. That funding to give us that relief coming out of COVID. Some of us were still not seeing in numbers as we ought to, and we needed that support, that working capital. So creating that fund to give us that buffer for short term, medium term, and that fund would definitely go a long way. It's something that we gamma for a long time. Over 2 to 3 years now, we have been behind the THA to support us in any way in terms of that funding. And now I'm really happy to see that things is really coming to pass, and that fund will go a very long way in assisting us as business. The Cove Industrial Park, and that park have been there for quite some time now, and not much activity have been happening there. So we definitely see that partnership with the public and private sector, where the owners of the park, which is the EDCOT, is going to push more for business to get involved in the park by giving them the tenure of the land in which you lease. You can use it as security, and that could aid in your working capital and even your capital investment going into the investment in the park. Before, you couldn't use the land as security. So you now have to raise external security, which sometimes poses a problem. Now you have the ability to use the land as security so that it could assist you in your business going forward. And I'm looking forward to that. That's really significant, and it will go a very long way. When we look at the area of and development in terms of infrastructure, we see that in certain infrastructure on the island will be given some priority, and we are happy about that because we do have some rural areas that really need that much infrastructure spent. We know the development aspect of the budget is not much in terms of what we got last year. So hence the reason why we have to tweak whatever little we have and see what best we can make of it. And we are pleased with some of those going forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, let's go to more specific areas. How do you feel particularly with the areas that were dealt with, such as crime? Do you think it was sufficiently dealt with? Any recommendations or opinion there?
Well, what we have to say about crime is that we know crime is in national security, and it's more of the the Minister of National Security and the police service to treat with crime. But the THA in its small entity tries its best to see what it could do in terms of that community. We mentioned that community program they're going to use to foster community development in terms of dealing with the at-risk youths and bringing the community to understand and getting them active and involved in things that goes on within the said community. We also see the establishment of the Tobago police, what do you want to call it, force or service. And that pins on, like in Port of Spain, we have city police, and also in San Fernando, there's city police, in Arima, city police as well. And in the boroughs, we have borough police. So it was something like that he's trying to mimic. You have to look at the legal aspect of it to see how that falls in the whole prospect of things. And there must be some sort of liaison between the Ministry of National Security and the THA in respect to that police service that you're trying to put in place, and also the commissioner, because it's not a runaway horse. So it's something that have to report to someone. There must be some line of reporting to the commissioner going forward, because having your own police service, as you could understand, is a critical thing, and it have to be well managed and ensure that you go to the directive or the guidelines of the central government in terms of national security. So I'm looking forward to that. That that process or that service will aid in some of the low-hanging fruits around the island in terms of the community, the patrols within the community, and the beaches and where all the tourists visits. And so that police service will plays a very, very important part in dealing with the local statistics or the local aesthetics of Tobago in terms of all those rural areas that we have beaches that is open, and we have a lot of beaches that tourists visit, and we need to get them being protected. Yeah.
Definitely. Now, as you mentioned, tourists, of course, coming in Tobago, you have a big weekend ahead of you. Of course, the entire summer, the winter season, and so much more. How would you say that the tourism aspect was dealt with in this budget presentation?
Well, the hundred and something $1 million, they could get some more. But what we see that we have to do a bit of marketing, strengthen our marketing agencies. We have Tital there that definitely have to work in conjunction with the stakeholders, with the Caribbean airline, so that when they're going to do a marketing, it's not Tital alone going forward in terms of Tobago. If you could merge or work in conjunction with Caribbean airline, so when you go to do marketing, it would be a more camaraderie or cooperating within two entities instead of you going by yourself. And otherwise, you could really partner with Caribbean Airline and the other entities, even in Trinidad, the tourism agency down there, so that you could have a better outreach. Because it's at the end of the day, it's Trinidad and Tobago, and we have to keep that in mind, and we could really forge together to really get a bigger push going forward. Because it's limited in terms of tourism. Let's look at the new airport. Tasha, we're going to get a new airport soon, sometime next year around June, July. This brand new sparkling airport is going to be open, and it's going to be a lot of excitement on the island. I will definitely believe there are going to be new direct airlift coming into that space. So you can't just market on yourself. You're marketing with the airport authority and the other stakeholders within the space. And with these new airlines coming in, and they bring people to the island, and they're definitely going to be the need for hotels and bedrooms, etc. And then so the ripple effect that happens within that investment, the taxi drivers will see some more revenue coming in. There will be workers, because these hotels will need, these new plants will need. We will need more workers. Workers would have to find accommodation. Workers would have to be spending money. So the average person around, definitely everything will start to be the uptake. Tobago going to be in a buzz come 2025. And all we urge the Tobagonians, the business on island, is to get yourself ready for this new game changer that we spoke about for many times. And now it's in our face. And we really have to work towards that. So the tourism is going to happen. And so we just ask our local business to be on that readiness for when that happens, and you take full advantage of that opportunity to partner with the different entities and raise a business from one stage to the next stage. We're looking forward to that tourism trust that's coming to Tobago soon.
Now, Mr. Williams, as you mentioned, business development and the exciting expansion for 2025, this brings into thought the young entrepreneurs of Tobago. How would you say that in the budget, young entrepreneurship was touched on? Was it sufficiently dealt with, and any recommendations?
Yeah, I think when I look at the agency in Tobago, the BDU that responsible for grants and putting forward different perspectives and education towards entrepreneurship, and I'm happy to know that and because we spoke about it, and in the chamber itself, we established a Tobago Business Advisory desk to assist business in moving and getting themselves all registered, and getting themselves ready for business itself. Working on their business plan, working on their marketing, those who need mentorship. I mean, these are the things that really going to foster to move business throughout and carry them to the next stage. So we definitely at the chamber, we partner with the THA in that aspect, and we're looking forward to that relationship we can forge with them, getting business on the island, young business entrepreneur ready for the world of business.
Excellent. And what about the aspect of health? Of course, it would have been touched on in the budget. Do you think it was sufficiently dealt with?
Well, health got the largest slice of the pie, as we could say. And we see the infrastructure in health in Tobago. We have some challenges with some of the infrastructure, and there's a lot of money have to be spent on bringing those infrastructure to place, both equipment and the plant. As you know, the Roxborough Hospital have been there; it haven't been in at 24 hours operational. So to get the necessary manpower and get the skill set in there to get that hospital in operational state 24 hours, it will cost. There will be some capital spending there. And so hence the reason why I see that chunk of money went to the health sector to get the health sector going. And then the educational, Natasha, I've seen a lot of the outreach clinics and dealing with chronic diseases on the island is a thing that have to put some trust in it. There are too much people sitting in clinics waiting for medical treatment, etc. So if you could do a bit of education and lifestyle and people could really focus on living and eating well and being well mentally, because that's a big part to play as well, I think that could reduce that number of people we see sitting at these clinics on a daily basis with all these lifestyle problems. And I think that's a real good trust. It's there in the budget statement where emphasis will be placed on that education in terms of health, and I really appreciate that.
Now let's go to the model that was discussed, Mr. Williams. Now, they said that it's going to be adopted by administration of strategic selectivity. What are your thoughts on that? And where would you say the THA will be prioritizing projects?
Well, as you can see, it's a strategic move, a prudent strategic move, and I think that model was used because of maybe they look at the resources at hand or the resources he may get, and you definitely have to strategically do that in terms of putting priority where priority is due and meeting the commitments of the people, because you go promising and then you can't deliver. So definitely, based on the limited resources, you will have to prioritize going forward, and you have to communicate that to the people, because the population expects certain things, and when you don't deliver, they definitely feel hurt. So it's important that you understand that and meet with them and put priority where priority is due. So I know there's a lot of projects on the table. As you can see, there are over a couple hundred projects on the table, and then they would have to now prioritize what seems workable and continue the process. It doesn't matter that the next year budget you drop things. There must be some continuous with the process of getting these projects into fruition. Because as time gone by, we see budget statements being listed, and there's so much things coming out of those budget statements in terms of policy, in terms of projects that you really like to do, and then when come to the actual getting it done, the action itself, sometimes, Tasha, we don't see it at all. So we definitely going to be holding the THA accountable for some of these deliverables that they mentioned, and going forward through their administration.
Mr. Williams, as you mentioned, holding the THA accountable earlier on in the conversation, where you would have spoken of quarterly meetings with the THA to just keep abreast of what's going on. Is this the same strategy that you will follow to hold them accountable, or do you have other things in mind?
Tasha, you hit the nail on the head. We do hold them accountable. We listen to all they have to say within the budget speeches and otherwise, and we do have a list, and we go through them one by one. The biggest thing now is just their whole management, their whole way they do business. The THA is 100% manual. And now I'm seeing they're going into the digital space, in which we embrace that e-tender in treating with tenders, the transparency in tender documents, and even in the way they treat suppliers and even service providers in payments. We want to see some better transparency in going forward, and timely payments, because when you don't pay a contractor on time, or you don't pay a service provider on time, that affects his entire business, and it brings on hardship onto him. And then doing business further with the teacher. Now, you may want to say, well, I will up my price, because if I have to wait X amount of time to get payments, and that really ruin my cash flow, and then I have to pay extra money on my overdraft facilities, as the case may be, it's all come down to economics. So if you be paid within a specific time, a reasonable time, 60 to 90 days, and not 6 months to a year or even more than that, it will help the efficiency within the THA. So I'm looking at, and I know internally they have some challenges at the THA. I know for sure they definitely have some challenges. You have people doing NIS, and they're doing NIS manual. in these times to do it NIS sheets, a manual for hundreds of staff. No, Tasha, they really need some efficiency in the THA.
Definitely do with that you mentioned that particularly quite a lot of work that we know with the technological developments can definitely be changed and possibly be highly effective as well. Mr. Williams, this would have been the last presentation from the current finance secretary. In July, a new secretary is going to join the office. Do you have any expectations for the new secretary?
Well, what I would tell the new secretary, I hope the new secretary is within the scope of the division of finance or someone around that area, and that understand finance and understand economics, because taking Tobago to the next level will take some real understanding of what's happening in the space, and not just mere someone who just know numbers, somebody who understand the culture, understand the people, and taking whatever small or limited resources we have and stretch it to the ability without all the gaps and leakages that sometimes happens within divisions. So that new secretary have a task at hand. And I'm looking forward to supporting that person, whoever that person may be. And I think the person will be announced by at the end of the sitting. And so we look forward to meeting and chatting with that new Secretary of Finance.
Definitely. And of course, thank you so much for that. No disrespect to the office, was referencing the new finance secretary that will be coming in July. And today, of course, there is going to be the budget debate, Mr. Williams. What are you perhaps looking forward to? Or what do you think we're going to hear coming out of this debate today?
Well, as I indicated early on, I think that the minority leader definitely he's the opposition, so he will make a review on what have been presented in terms of policies and so forth, and then he would have to give alternatives. Most of the times, he will look into the document and see there's any leakages or anything that he thinks that don't make sense, but all I want him to do is to give alternative. We're going to listen to what alternative he have and how practical those alternative will be for the island, and that's the basis of what we're going to listen to the minority leader about.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Williams, and thank you for your input. All the best to you and the chambers. You continue to work and hold those accountable. Have an excellent day.
Thank you, Natasha, and thank you to your team. We just want to say thanks, and I mean the weekend is going to be fabulous. And I just ask Trinidad, all of you guys, come across, just enjoy it. We're now going to start this summer, and it's going to be a blast.
It definitely will. Have an excellent day. Curtis Williams, Chairman of the Tobago Division of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, giving insight into the THA 2025 budget presentation. Stay tuned. There's more coming up in a few moments.